Hey guys, I wanted to do a video about the future of the Tony Hawk franchise for a while now, but I kept putting it off, and initially I wanted to tell you that the franchise is in good hands and that we will probably get a new Tony Hawk game soonish, but then this happened. Yeah, so let's get into it and welcome to Frame Dropped. So what basically happened is that Vicarious Visions, the developer to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, to the remake, they got merged into their mother company, Activision Blizzard. And it's as dirty as it sounds. So Vicarious Visions are now not longer their own company, but they rather help out Activision and Blizzard with some other work, and presumably they're working on the Diablo 2 remake. So there will be no new game made by Vicarious Visions entirely, so what does that mean for the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater franchise? Well, initially, before I knew that info, I wanted to tell you that Vicarious Visions was probably already working on a new Tony Hawk game. Why? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 sold incredibly well. They sold over 1 million copies in the first 2 weeks, and that made this game the fastest selling game in the entire franchise of the Tony Hawk series. So why wouldn't Activision want to cash in on that success and make another Tony Hawk game? So it's a no-brainer, right? And developers usually don't just sit around and do nothing after they've released a game, because they have been hired, they need to be paid, they are there. So usually a developer starts working on a new game right away. So I think that Vicarious Vision maybe even worked on a new Tony Hawk game for quite some months now. So the question is, what happens with that project if there is a project, right? Will it get cancelled? Stuff like that happens all the time. If you just think about Star Wars 1313, that was almost in a playable state, I think, and it got cancelled. So a lot of work got into that, and afterwards it got cancelled, right? So that could happen, but I think what is more likely is that another developer will either scrap that work and start work on a new Tony Hawk game, or they will take the work that Vicarious Vision has already done and refine that and work on top of that. I think that will happen, and I still believe that there will be a new Tony Hawk game in the near future. The question is just, what will that game be exactly? Who will develop that game? And will it be a developer that understands the Tony Hawk franchise? So my fear now is that depending on a developer, depending on how Activision is handling the whole project, either this will happen or maybe this will happen. But before we talk about what that new game could be, let's just think about who will develop that game, maybe, if there is a new Tony Hawk game. So I think two developers that are under the Activision umbrella are pretty likely to work on that game. One of them is Beenox. Beenox is a developer that is kind of known as a porting powerhouse. They developed a lot of ports. They did the Call of Duty Modern Warfare remasters. They ported some old Tony Hawk games on macOS and other systems. And they also worked a little bit on Crash 4 and Tony Hawk's 1 and 2. And on the other hand, there's also a developer whose name is thrown around a lot now, and that is Toys for Bob. Toys for Bob has done the remake of the Spyro trilogy and also Crash 4, both of which are pretty good games, and they have been done with a lot of care. I mean, they also, the only Tony Hawk game that they did was Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam in 2006, but you know, a company, a developer always changes, you know, new people come in and go, the team gets bigger or smaller, they do other projects, they learn a lot, sometimes the direction completely changes, in the upper levels as well, so anything can happen, and that might not be a bad thing. And one thing that you have to think about, and I will eventually get to that question of how next Tony Hawk game might look like, is that the engine is already there. Vicarious Visions has built a great Tony Hawk's Pro Skater engine. So a new game, if it's for example a 3 and 4 remake or something like that, it only has to be tweaked a little bit, right? So the work is already still there, and we all don't know what happens behind the scenes. So maybe Activision wants the transition to be smooth, you know? Maybe they will license out the franchise to someone else. Maybe they will find a great studio to work with. Maybe they will take a couple of Vicarious Vision employees and let them also work on the Tony Hawk game in order to ease the transition and to do everything that's right for the franchise. We don't know all of that, so anything could be possible, and I think it's more likely that there will be a next game and it will be good to maybe great. Although I would have loved to see a new Vicarious Vision game because they put so much love into it, and I'm devastated that they are not going to do that. But let's assume that a good studio will work on that and there will be a new Tony Hawk game, which again I think is very likely. What will be the possible outcome? I think there are 4 likely scenarios of how a Tony Hawk game will look like. And again, maybe Vicarious Visions already worked on that for a couple of months. So I think the first likely scenario is that maybe there will be a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 remake, but it will be added in as a DLC for 1 and 2. Maybe there will be a definitive edition or whatever for next-gen consoles, which already bundles in THPS 3. Maybe that's the only way to get those levels. But I think that is likely. If you don't think that THPS 4 is likely to be remastered because of how different it is, then that might be the solution, because just THPS 3 would be too small of a game to release it as a full-price title, right? But the DLC option could be the way to do it. The second scenario, in my opinion, that could be possible is a THPS 3 and 4 remake. And I know a lot of people think that 4 wouldn't fit in because it's too different, because it has bigger and more open levels and a different structure. It doesn't have a 2-minute timer. You have NPCs around the world that give you the tasks that you have to complete, right? Honestly, if it will be a next-gen game primarily, I don't think that's a problem at all. The levels are not too big. I think they could make that happen. They could put in the NPCs, so maybe you have the classic mode in THPS 3 and the newer mode in THPS 4. They don't have to put in the same voice actors and stuff like that. They can change it up. They also changed a couple of stuff up about THPS 1 and 2. They added in new goals. So they could do that, and a natural progression to the Creative Park mode would then also be to add in custom goals, which has already been a thing in the franchise. So I don't think that's too unlikely that that will happen, right? The next thing is a little bit more unlikely in my opinion, but I just want to talk about it because I really hope that it's being true. I would like to see a Underground or a Underground 1 and 2 remake. Underground 1 and 2 are pretty similar in the structure. They have a little bit of a story mode. They have more open levels, which again aren't too big and couldn't be remastered. So I think that would be possible. And I would really like to see that. Those are maybe the most beloved games in the series, and Underground 1 is my favorite game in the series. But the only problem that I see here is how the whole Jackass thing will be translated if they remake that. Will all the pro skaters be on board? Is Bam Margera still going to be a part of that? It's all very weird, but because a lot of people would buy that and would want to play that, I don't think that it's unlikely, but I think 3 and 4 is more likely. And now, the fourth possibility, in my opinion, is an entirely new Tony Hawk game. And they could do that. They could take the engine and either do a classic type of thing or a little bit more modern thing. They could change things up more. They could be creative and implement new mechanics. But in this case, I'm really afraid if Vicarious Visions doesn't do it and another firm does it. That could be the point where something more like this happens, and I don't want to see that. So I hope the next game will will be a remake, because then the engine is already there. And I'm not saying that a remake is easier to do than a new game, but you have the base material and you try to copy that material in some way, and you want to be as close to the feeling as possible, right? So you don't have to invent anything new, especially if the engine is already there and maybe just has to be tweaked a little bit. So I think Beanox or Toys for Bob could be a very good fit for that. So not all hope is lost in my opinion, although I'm pretty sad to see Vicarious Visions go. But what do you guys think? Tell me in the comments below. Does the stuff that I say make sense, or is that just complete bollocks in your opinion? Please just tell me and let us talk in the comments. If you like this video and want to see more of these kinds of videos, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And a new thing, we are currently also on Twitch since a little while and are streaming every Wednesday, Thursday and Sunday now, with subject to change. But I would be really honored if you stop by. Thank you very much for watching. Until then, see you next time.